Earlier this week on the Tuesday episode of this show, we brought 4 questions that we were waiting for answers for from the Dimers model, and specifically the futures model that updates every single week. Well, we took a closer look in the last 2 days, and we have the answers. Dave, I'll let you go first with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, it started off. So my first one was whether or not the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC. We talked about it on Tuesday, maybe felt a little obvious. The reigning Super Bowl champions, they're 3-0. But there are some other 3-0 teams. There are some other significantly good teams in the NFC. We saw them squeak away a win against the Rams. So, we wanted to check to see if the model was lining up with the way the books are. And the answer is a pretty resounding yes. They're the top team to win the NFC by the model at 23.9%. That's over the Lions in second at 17.2%. So a pretty sizable gap there of 6.7. They moved up to second overall in our Super Bowl probabilities, which originally was the Bills and Ravens, pretty dead even at about 13.1%. And now the Super Bowl probabilities show the Eagles at 13.3%. And they are one of 3 teams with over a 75% probability to win their division. So as we have seen so far in the games and what it looks like on paper, the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC.
Not surprised whatsoever by the model's answer there. The champs are the champs until somebody makes a run at them. My first question was about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are they for real? Simply put, should we buy this 3-0 start? They're firmly in control of their division, a 2-game lead through just 3 games. Well, our model says yes. In fact, in the NFC probabilities of our futures model, the Bucs are tied for 4th most likely team to come out of the NFC with a 9% probability. That's the same as the media darling Green Bay Packers, who we've told you on previous episodes here, our model's a little more skeptical of Green Bay. So you get fair odds if you were betting Tampa to win the NFC, 10-1. That's totally fair. Unlike Green Bay, who with a similar probability to win the NFC, you can only get them at plus 380 right now. Interesting note, however, though, when you go from to win the NFC to win the Super Bowl, the Bucs probability does drop a little bit compared to Green Bay. 3.9% chance of winning the Super Bowl for Tampa. That's held steady. However, it is lower than Green Bay. So I don't know what the model's thinking there. Maybe potentially when envisioning a Bills or a Ravens game against Tampa versus Green Bay, the model likes Green Bay a little more. But if you're just looking in the NFC, there's actually some pretty good value if you want to back Tampa at 10-1.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up with the media darling Packers and the model not being quite as high on them is they lost to the Browns. So as far as I'm concerned, we're already victory lapping on that, regardless of what happens at the end of the season.
Amen to that. All right, what's your next one?
So switching over to the AFC, I want to know what's the deal with the Colts. What is their ceiling? How good, how far can this team really go? And the model looks a little hesitant to buy all the way in on Indy. So I've put their ceiling here as make the playoffs. They're a clear leader in the AFC South, but still actually under 50% at 45.8, with the Jaguars pretty hot on their heels at 2-1 and a 35.0% probability to win that division. They're still outside the big name contenders in the AFC with a 3.3% probability to win the conference, while their odds actually imply about 6.3. So you're getting a little overcharged there based on the model's predictions. And then you just barely sneak inside the top half of all teams to win the Super Bowl at just 1.4%. So while that is likely to go up as teams, if the Colts continue to trend this way and other teams push out, the ceiling looks more like the playoffs, not really a deep run. We could be wrong here, but it's still a transition year for the Colts. I don't think anyone envisioned this start. And like we talked about on Tuesday, they haven't faced the best of the best yet. And their hardest games are not even in that top tier, really, of competition. So Colts should make the playoffs, but how far they go, model's a little skeptical there.
Yeah, it's one thing to become the darling breakout team that gets all this confidence when you're beating up on some of the worst teams in the NFL. When the lights are bright, you get to postseason, it's going to be a little bit different. So be cautious if you are backing this Indy run to continue. My last question on Tuesday was, are the Chargers Super Bowl contenders? Yes or no? Very good football team, very fun football team. I think a very public football team. I think the public loves to back Justin Herbert and this Chargers team. Well, our model would say, yes, they are Super Bowl contenders, but technically we put them in the second tier. The eighth most likely Super Bowl winner at 4.5%, but that's the fourth highest probability in the AFC. You would expect the Bills and Ravens to be ahead of the Chargers. However, interestingly enough, the Chiefs are also still ahead of the Chargers, and you're getting similar value with Kansas City and Los Angeles right now. Our model has the Chiefs at a 7% probability to win the Super Bowl, as opposed to the Chargers at just that 4.5%. So again, look, I wouldn't advise you to bet either of those right now. We're probably still going to see some change here, especially when one of the Ravens or Chiefs falls to 1-3 after that Week 4 game. If the Chargers can keep taking care of business, get to 4-0, maybe we see them continue rising. But for now, the model's not ready to immediately put them into that tier. And if you were looking to bet someone in that tier, we actually show a higher probability of Kansas City riding the ship than we do Los Angeles down the stretch. You also had a note here on a couple other teams we haven't gotten to, both undefeated teams, the Bills and the 49ers. What do you got here?
Yeah, just wanted to touch on them as they are in this 3-0 category, though we didn't have any questions we posed about them on Tuesday. The Bills are the model's number one seed, 15.8% to win the Super Bowl, just under 30% to win the AFC. And that division looks like a wrap. They're over 90% in that unbettable odds anyway, minus 2,000 or something, maybe even long or shorter. 49ers stay undefeated with Mac Jones under center, 2 games with him in the role. Bit of a quiet threat here. The books have barely adjusted their odds. It's kind of funny. They're 3-0. Odds haven't moved. So make of that what you will. It seems to me that the books think they're not built for the long run, but to me that just says value. You had an undefeated team at plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl right now, and plus money to win their division, which the model loves. They got to hold off the Rams, and Seahawks and Cardinals are all looking solid. But yeah, good value on the Niners still at 3-0. And wow, talk about could not be a worse timed game for the Ravens and Chiefs, huh? Meeting 1 and 2, really need to pick up a win, and you got each other. It's tough. Going to be a tough scene for whoever comes out of that game on the losing side.
Yep. Yeah, back against the wall early for two teams that have very rarely had their back against the wall in recent years. So we'll see. We'll see what both sides are made of.